Hello, my fellow Americans. Just have a book I want to recommend for you here. It's called Passing for White, written by James O'Toole, copyright 2002. It's about a family born in Georgia, in Jones County, Georgia, and we are chronicling the family, or at least Mr. O'Toole chronicles the family from 1820 to 1920, when the last one died. And the book talks about race, religion, and the Healy family from 1820 to 1920. And it's really a fascinating book. I'm just going to go through some information which you also can go through on the Wikipedia website about the Healy family. The Healy family of Georgia became notable in U.S. history because of the siblings' high achievements in the second half of the 19th century, particularly within the Catholic Church. They were born in Jones County, Georgia, to Mary Eliza Smith, a mulatto slave, and her common-law husband, Michael Morris Healy, an Irish Catholic immigrant from County Roscommon, who became a wealthy cotton planter. As they were born into slavery, the mixed-race children were prohibited from being educated in Georgia. They were majority European in ancestry, and Healy was determined to provide them with educations. He sent them to the north, as did many planters with mixed-race children. The sons attended a combination of Quaker and later Catholic schools in New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. James, Patrick, and Sherwood all did further studies at St. Sulpice in Paris, France, and the latter two earned doctorates there. The three daughters were educated at Catholic convent schools in Montreal, Canada. Of the 9 children who lived to adulthood, 3 of the sons became ordained Catholic priests and educators, while all 3 daughters became nuns. One left the order, married an Irish immigrant, and had a son. James Augustine Healy became the first American bishop of African descent, and Eliza Healy attained the rank of Mother Superior. Michael joined the United States Revenue Cutter Service, a predecessor of the U.S. Coast Guard. Today he is asserted to be the first person of African American descent to command a federal ship. 3 of the Healy children have been individually honored by the naming of various buildings, awards, and a ship for them. The former site of the Healy's family plantation near Macon, Georgia, is now called Healy Point. It includes the Healy Point Country Club. Born into slavery, the children were considered mulatto in the South, a census classification that recognized mixed race. With 3/4 European ancestry, the children varied in features and complexions, but all were baptized Catholic in the North and were accepted as white Irish Americans. Their stories have intrigued historians and sociologists for their high achievements as the children of an immigrant and an enslaved woman. They gained higher education, and most became prominent in the Catholic Church. They negotiated racial issues, and they created alliances with Catholic Church officials and its institutions. The roles of Catholic Church representatives who mentored the young Healy men and women have attracted interest. James M. O'Toole's Passing for White, Race, Religion, and the Healy Family, 1820 to 1920, 2003, explores many of those issues. A.D. Powell's Passing for Who You Really Are, 2005, takes issue with what she calls the distortion of the past 20th century activists, as she says they practice their own kind of one-drop rule. For instance, she thinks it's inappropriate to claim as African-American individuals, such as the Healys, who historically identified themselves and were accepted as Irish Americans, although they acknowledge their multiracial heritage. Since the late 20th century, several of the Healys have been noted and celebrated as the first African Americans to achieve certain positions. Family history. One of Healy's sons found through genealogical research that their father, Michael Morris Healy, was born on September 20th, 1796 in the village of Athlone in County Roscommon. He immigrated to the United States, possibly by way of Georgia, possibly by way of Canada, arriving in 1818, which would have made him 22 years old? Yes. Through good fortune in a Georgia land lottery and later acquisitions, he eventually acquired 1,500 acres of good bottom land near the Ocmulgee River in Jones County, across from the market town of Macon. You know, that's amazing. Lots of European American families got their land through land lotteries, and that was an advantage that blacks never had, coming here in chains and And though they were promised 40 acres and a mule, well, it wasn't actually promised. It was never enacted by the Congress, but it was certainly discussed and rumored to be imminent, but it never happened. But a lot of European Americans who have land today and who've never actually been on the bottom got their land, their start in America through land lotteries. So it was given to them, a built-in advantage in whiteness. He became one of the more prominent and successful planters in an area known for cotton and owned 49 slaves for his labor-intensive enterprise. Among these was a 16-year-old girl named Mary Eliza, whose surname has been recorded both as Smith and Clark, whom he took as his common-law wife in 1829, when he was age 33. His wife, Mary Eliza Smith or Clark, has been described in various accounts as slave and former slave, and as mulatto and African American, which covers mixed race. Commonly in the South, persons of visible or known African racial heritage were considered to be black because of the association with slavery as a racial caste. By that criterion, Mary Eliza and all the Healy children were black, although the children were 3/4 European or more in ancestry. The term mulatto was also in use, which recognized mixed race. In Louisiana, mulattoes formed a third class, known as Louisiana Creoles. They gained education and property, sometimes as a result of settlements on women and children in the system of placage. The union of Michael Morris and Mary Eliza Healy was unusual for being relatively formalized. Although unions were common between white men and mixed race or black women, he was not the only wealthy white man to take an African American wife and to provide for the education of their children. For example, shortly before the start of the American Civil War, nearly all the 200 young men at Wilberforce College in southern Ohio, established by white and black Ohio Methodist leaders for the education of blacks, were mixed-race sons of wealthy white planters from the South. At the time, Georgia law and that of most other states prohibited marriage between whites and blacks. The couple lived together as man and wife from 1829 until their deaths a few months apart in 1850. During that time, they had 10 children, 9 of whom survived to adulthood. Education of the Healy children. Under the laws, if their mother had been a slave at their births, the children of the Healys would also have been considered slaves, according to the principle of partus, by which children were assigned the status of their mother. Various accounts of her status conflict. The laws in Georgia prohibited the education of the children because they were considered black, whether slave or free. Such anti-literacy laws had been instituted in southern states following Nat Turner's slave rebellion in 1831. To overcome obstacles for the children, Healy sent them to northern states to attend school as soon as each was old enough. He sent the girls to a French-Canadian convent school in Montreal. The oldest son, James, born in 1830, was sent to Flushing, New York in 1837, where he attended a Quaker school. He later transferred to another Quaker school in Burlington, New Jersey. Several of James's younger brothers followed him in this path. The Quaker schools presented different issues for the boys. They faced criticism because their father owned slaves, which was in conflict with Quaker principles of equality of men and some discrimination as sons of Irish Catholic immigrants at a time of greatly increased immigration during the Great Famine. Around 1844, the senior Michael Healy met John Bernard Fitzpatrick, the Catholic bishop of the Diocese of Boston. He learned of the new College of Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts, which was then accepting children of grammar school age. In 1844, Healy sent his sons James 14, Hugh 12, Patrick 10, and Sherwood 8 to be enrolled at Holy Cross. Michael, then only 6 years old, followed them a few years later, enrolling in 1849 at Holy Cross. The Healy parents intended to sell their plantation and move to the north with their 3 youngest children. When their parents each died unexpectedly in 1850, Hugh Healy risked his safety to return to Georgia to take his 3 youngest siblings to the north, while executors of his parents' estate liquidated the plantation and other assets. Safe in New York, he arranged for the 3 youngest children to be baptized as Catholics in the Church of St. Francis Xavier on June 13th of 1851. After graduating from Holy Cross, he had gone to New York. He was building a hardware business in the city, but died as a result of an infection contracted after a boating accident in the Hudson River at age 21. That's a filthy river. Quite understandable how he could be overwhelmed by infection and die. The Healy children. The photo that you see on the right top is James Augustine Healy, the oldest. James Augustine Healy, lifespan from 1830 to 1900, graduated valedictorian of the Holy Cross's first graduating class in 1849. In 1962, Holy Cross christened its newest dormitory, Healy Hall, in honor of James A. Healy. He became the first American with African ancestry to become a Roman Catholic bishop in the United States, ordained as the Bishop of Portland, Maine on June 2nd of 1875. During his time in Maine, at a period of growth in Catholic immigration, Healy oversaw the establishment of 60 new churches, 68 missions, 18 convents, and 18 schools. Patrick Francis Healy. The second picture, the one below James. Patrick Francis Healy, lifespan 1834 to 1910, became a Jesuit, was the first American with African ancestors to earn a Ph.D. at St. Sulpice Seminary in Paris. He was named a dean at Georgetown University in 1866. At the age of 39, on July 31st, 1874, he assumed the presidency of what was then the largest Catholic college in the United States. Patrick Healy's influence on Georgetown University was so far-reaching that he is often referred to as the school's second founder, following Archbishop John Carroll. Healy helped transform the small 19th century college into a major university for the 20th century. He modernized the curriculum by requiring courses in the sciences, particularly chemistry and physics. He expanded and upgraded the schools of law and medicine. In the antebellum years, the college had drawn most of its students from the South. 4/5 of the alumni fought as Confederates. In the later 19th century, it began to draw more students from the Northeast, which had a higher rate of Catholic immigration. During Healy's tenure, the college adopted the colors of blue and gray as a symbol of reconciliation for the nation. Michael Augustine Healy, whose lifespan was 1838 to 1904, was younger than brothers James, Hugh, Patrick, and Shirley.